Hello, this is the Circularity Catalyst Podcast, where regenerative thinking meets real-world strategy. I'm your host, Ken Alston. Welcome back to the Circularity Catalyst. If you're new here, this is the show where we challenge outdated sustainability thinking, rewire the way business is done, and explore how to design like nature to sustain the conditions that are required to support life on Earth. And today, this is more than an episode. This is a reboot, because the word circularity has gone mainstream. And that should be a good thing. But the truth is, it's being stripped of its meaning, detached from sustainability, reduced to loops. So in this cornerstone episode, I want to clarify what real circularity is, and why we must go beyond circularity alone, and what this podcast will now explore. With new guest interviews, new voices, and a deeper return to strategy that's rooted in life itself. Because circularity is not enough. Let's be clear, a circle isn't inherently sustainable. If you loop toxic materials, harmful labor practices, or extractive models, you haven't created regeneration. You've just created a more elegant trap. That's why we need to return to first principles. Sustainability in its true form is about the ability to sustain the conditions that are required for life on Earth, for all species, into the future. So when we talk about the circular economy, we have to ask, circular for what? And more importantly, are we speaking about circles or cycles? Because here's the key distinction. A circle is static. It loops. A cycle is dynamic. It evolves. And here's another key difference. Circles are flat. They exist in 2 dimensions. Cycles can be 3-dimensional, like my Tactical Tetrahedron model. When we flatten sustainability into 2D diagrams and circular icons, we lose the depth and movement that life actually requires. The Tactical Tetrahedron reminds us that real change isn't a loop. It's a living process in 3 dimensions, identity, interaction, and infrastructure, all connected to the sustaining cycle of life. Nature doesn't deal in perfect loops. It deals in living systems with seasons, generations, transitions, and rebirth. That's what real circularity recognizes. And that's why language matters. Not to sound clever, but to lead clearly. Real circularity is sustainable circularity. It's the union of systems that cycle, materials that regenerate, and includes businesses that contribute to the conditions that sustain life. It draws directly from nature's true cycle. Creation with growth to maturity, reproduction, then aging to death, and recreation. Not just closed loops, but living cycle. Real Circularity is also the title of the book I co-authored with Rachel Sheila Khan. It's a framework, a call to action, and a standard for what circular economy should actually mean in practice. This isn't just about design, it's about survival, and it leads me to the next idea that will shape everything we do on this podcast from here on out. You've heard of homicide, suicide, even maybe ecocide. But what do you call it when we destroy the conditions that actually support life on Earth? I call it Vitacide. It's a term I've coined to describe the unintentional, systemic killing of life's enabling conditions. Not with one big act, but with billions of small ones made every day by businesses, policies, and people who aren't paying attention to the ripple effects of how we live and work. Vitacide happens when we cling to outdated industrial logic, built on extraction and waste, rather than aligning with the living systems that sustain life. And here's where the business risk comes in. I've also coined the term Vitacide risk. It's the emerging threat to businesses who fail to make the shift. Vitacide risk is the reputational, regulatory, and financial fallout that companies now face when their actions, whether intentional or not, are shown to be destroying the very conditions that are required for life to thrive. Customers are watching. Regulators are tightening. Markets are waking up. And companies that continue with business as usual may soon be publicly called out, penalized, and devalued. This is the enemy of real circularity, and we can only stop Vitacide by naming it, measuring it, and redesigning our systems to avoid it. That's what this podcast now exists to support. So what can you expect from this rebooted version of Circularity Catalyst? More guest interviews from regenerative business leaders to systems thinkers to quiet revolutionaries who are actually doing the work. Some solo episodes like this one, where I go deeper into frameworks like the Tactical Tetrahedron, design like nature, and the principles of meta-sustainability, language leadership, because words shape worlds, and the sustainability conversation needs a rewrite. This isn't a podcast about theory, it's about applied wisdom, for those who want to do the work of transformation. If you're finding this conversation helpful, I invite you to explore the Real Circularity Academy. It's where we dive deeper into the principles, frameworks, and case studies that bring these ideas to life. Visit academy.realcircularity.com to learn more and take the next step. Back to the show. Some closing thoughts. Circularity alone isn't enough. Sustainability alone can be and often is misunderstood. But when we unite them with intention, clarity, and honesty, we create the foundation for businesses that become more alive over time. That's the journey this podcast is now on. If you're with me, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and stay tuned for the upcoming guest conversations that will push this dialogue further. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Ken Alston.